Everybody, good morning out there in YouTube land now. That's right. We are now streaming straight into YouTube. Just the way it is. Facebook has changed their stuff, make it virtually impossible or difficult to use streaming platforms to go into Facebook. So now we're just going to go direct into YouTube. I hope everybody got the link. This is how it's going to be from now on. So hey, let's get started. This week we're going to be talking about a subject that most people don't really talk about openly, but then when it's time to start getting your able account together, this is something that's really important, is how to understand the savings options in your able account. Some people may say investment options, but they're really savings options, because this is what we're trying to do, is save. And so that's what it is, how to understand the savings options in your able account. So let's get started. This is Mark Solomon, your financial guide for special needs families, bringing you simple ideas and strategies to help lower your financial pressures today so you can get back to what's most important, taking care of your family. So that's it, right? So this is what we want to do. We want to understand our savings options in our able account. I mean, now we got it started. Now we're putting money in it every month, or we're taking lump sums from child support services, or we're taking money from SSI. Where we talk about surpluses every month, so we don't have any issues with losing benefits like Medicaid or SSI, right? So now that we've got that established, you may go, well, what's the best savings option for me? Well, we're going to kind of go over the five basic, there could be more than five, but the five basic saving options. And we're going to start at the top end and go down to the bottom end. Top end, where is it? Top end to bottom end. I have to go across the screen. Anyway, in regard to rate of return. So highest rate of return to lowest rate of return, okay? So highest rate of return, most of the able accounts across the country, they have investment portfolio options where there's more than one investment company working together, that they've kind of mashed them together to give you a more broad field of investments within, stocks, investments within your portfolio. You spread it out further. That means you have less opportunity to lose money and potentially more opportunity to gain money. It evens out the risk a little bit. Even though it could be higher risk, like with aggressive growth, you still are taking less risk with more stocks in there. If you have 150 companies that you're purchasing every time you put money in, if one or two of them tank, you still have 148 companies to work with. If you have 5 and 2 tank, well, then you got a real problem, right? So we're trying to just spread it out across more companies and more stocks. That's what those portfolios are for, and that's what makes them really helpful. So understanding that, let's move on, okay? So risk tolerance has to do with how afraid you are of losing your money and how risky it can be to put it in the stock market. I mean, even Robert Kiyosaki calls the stock market legalized gambling, and he's right. You can go to zero in your value, but you still own the stock, right? It's not like it can't come back. It can, and most likely, and most of the time, it does. Am I a professional any longer in this business? No, but my professional knowledge and expertise and experience, I'm giving you this information today, okay? So let's start with aggressive growth and moderate. The reason I'm using these three at the same time, aggressive growth and moderate, is because those fall under the long-term investment. And long-term investment means that it's going to be more than 10 years. So 10 years or more, or even out to 20. So if you're talking about an able account and you're talking about long-term saving, your child is young. They're under 10, probably under 8. 10 is okay, but under 8. Because why? By the time they're 18, you need 10 years for growth, right? At the very least, 20 is best. So if they're young and you're looking to grow money in their able account, you're going to want to use, at least over a 10-year period, best would be over 20, But 10-year period, because we're talking about also in retirement, it's all the same thing. Remember, we talked about the rule of 72 a couple weeks ago. And by the way, thank you for hanging in with us, because last week we were trying to figure out this platform stuff to get this video going. So thank you for being patient. We're glad to have you. So over a longer period of time, you can have more doubling periods. We talked about that in the rule of 72. If you have questions, put comment down there, and we'll answer your questions, or you can set a complimentary consultation right now, usually in the comments, either in Facebook and now here in YouTube. We're going to be putting up our calendar link to set up a complimentary consultation. So longer period of time, more doubling periods, that's the rule of 72. So if we're doing long-term investment, it's either aggressive growth, or moderate. Those are more long-term investments. Why? Because they tend to fluctuate, right? Over time. They may go up over time, but they go up and down with a more irregularity than something that's more conservative. Okay? So aggressive growth basically is about 100% stocks, maybe 95+% stocks. You may have a little bit of cash or one bond in there. Very little of anything that's anything but stocks. Why? And it's the most volatile, but over the longest period of time, longest period of time, you can get the highest rate of return, 12+%. Yeah, that's right, 12+% over 10, 15, 20 years time over time. Okay, it's not in 2 years. 1 year it could be 25, next year it could be -6. Next year it could be +75, and then it's -30. It's never that bad, but it can happen, right? So we're in for the long haul. And the reason I have moderate in there with growth and aggressive growth is because moderate still has more, a great deal more stock than bonds and cash in it. So like I said, aggressive growth is like 95% stocks and above. Growth is about 90%, 90-10, 85-15 at the lowest. It's still, you can definitely get that 12+% in there, right? But moderate is usually below 70% stock. Most of the time, 65-35, 60-40 stocks to bonds. Bonds are lower. Now, Mark, why is it moderate? Well, that's because you have less stocks and you have more bonds. Well, what do bonds do? Well, bonds move in the opposite direction of stocks. Stocks go up, bonds tend to level out and go down. Stocks go down, bonds tend to level up and go up a little bit. So what happens in moderate growth is that, yes, you may not get as much on the top end, but you also don't go as far down on the bottom end. The bonds help keep your value more buoyant over time. So if we're talking like a growth or aggressive growth is going like this, a moderate may go a little bit more like this, right? A little more down the middle than the bigger fluctuations. You could still get 8 to 10, sometimes even more than 10% over the long haul, but it is a little bit less risk adverse. Okay, so that's what I would do for the long term. Something that's definitely going to make more than 8% for sure, moderate to aggressive growth. Okay, so now those are the first three that we talked about: aggressive growth, and moderate. Those are the first three. The other two are going to be more balanced and conservative. What's balanced? That means like at least 50-50 stocks and bonds. So that thing is just tracking right down the middle, not fluctuating. It's like fluctuating a little bit in the middle here while you're going across over time. And balanced is for a shorter period of time. Let's say your kid's 11 or 12 and you got 6, 8, maximum 10 years, and you don't want to take too much risk. You don't want to have too much, risk, but you want to get a rate of return more than inflation, like 5, 6, maybe 7, could be 8. Depending on how well it performs, the portfolio. But that's going to be 50-50, 55-45, either direction, 55 stock, 45 bonds, or 55 bonds, 45 stock, right there in the middle. And there's going to be a lot more dividends in there. Dividends, bonds, they bring dividends on a monthly, quarterly, and or annual basis. So that's another way that your money can grow within there, is getting dividends. So that's the what I would call a more moderate to conservative, right? It's balanced between stocks and bonds, okay? And that sometimes is really good, even if you're going long term, for someone who's really just trying to build an emergency fund or an expense account and really want to outpace inflation by getting maybe 4 to 6. And look, these are no guaranteed numbers. These are just statistical averages over time. Everything is different. Everything fluctuates. Nothing is exact. But over years and years and years of data, this is the kind of the overview. We're giving you an idea, so you have a better idea of how to pick this stuff for your kids. Able account. So, and this is also a rule of thumb for any investment account, what we're talking about right here. So next, so that's 4 now: growth, aggressive growth, moderate, and now balanced, about 50-50 stocks or bonds. Now, anything below that, where there's going to be much more bonds and cash. What do I say cash? It's going to be in money market, where there's like no growth, just you have a certain amount of your cash, 5, 10, 15, 25% is in cash, just as a foundation. So it doesn't go anywhere. So you may get 0.75 to 1% a year on that. But most conservative investment portfolios are a lot of bonds and cash, because you're just looking to keep or outpace, just keep up with inflation. And that's a really good way to think if you've got less than 10 years. If you got 5 years and you're just starting it, and you want to like keep your money pacing to with inflation until your child's ready to use that money for expenses, that makes sense, because $100 today is not going to be $100 in value in 10 years. It's going to be more like $85, $75 today then. So you want it to keep up with inflation, and that's what a conservative portfolio can help you do. It's something you can keep for the long term, for the rest of their life, so they can constantly keep up with inflation. I'll go the other way. Constantly keep up with inflation over time. Hopefully you have more things that are sustaining your child that you have in a special needs trust. But for straightforward monthly expenses and emergency fund monies, if you want to keep up with inflation, conservative growth for sure. Most of the time, once we get to the age of majority, which is 18, or if your kid's able to be in college and they graduate, that's when you want to cut it back, no more than conservative. But I would say, since it's going to be an expense account that's going to be fed monthly and taken out monthly to supplement medical, food, shelter expenses, and whatever else are considered qualified disability expenses, QDEs, I would say, the savings balance, the savings option, the bank savings option is best for an expense account. You'll get 0.75 to 1% a year. You're not really looking to get a return. You just want to make sure, because if you're giving it monthly, the money that you're putting in monthly is keeping that balance stable throughout time, right? So you're not really worrying about fluctuations in the stock market. You don't want to have to pay extra fees and management costs that come with investments. And if you've been investing before, you know that there are sales charges and management fees. Also, if you're in a state-funded, a state-supported ABLE account, there's also going to be administrative costs over the year. But that's just the way that they function. If you get one privately, to the companies I know about offhand are Fidelity and American Funds, there aren't really administrative costs in there. It's just sales charges and management fees that have to do with managing your money. Those accounts are different. You want to talk about the differences in those, please set a complimentary consultation. We would love to talk to you about it and help you out, give you some guidance. So in review, there are 5 options. It's aggressive growth, moderate, balanced, conservative. And then the last one, which we'll call number 6, is a bank savings option. Those are your options. If you want more clarification based on your specific circumstance, please set a complimentary consultation right now. Don't wait. It's in the chat below. Set a complimentary consultation. We'd love to help you. You could also send an email to consultwithmark@yahoo.com. It's one word, consultwithmark@yahoo.com. Thank you so much for coming in here at our first YouTube presentation. We're excited to be here, and I hope to see you guys again real soon. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. This has been Mark Solomon, your financial guide for special needs families, bringing simple ideas and strategies to help lower your financial pressures today. Take care, and you can get back to what's most important, taking care of your family. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.